Hello and welcome back to the walkthrough of the Fire Starter Kit by A Brother Abroad. In the previous video, we reviewed our fire number calculator and spending calculator. Now we're going to take our fire number data and our expense data and put it into Tool 2, which is the Fire Withdrawal Rate Stress Test. Now this tool is designed to take your fire number, as said, and your withdrawal rate and show you how that will survive an extended period in retirement of withdrawals. So starting on page 2, start at the Start Here tab. This page has explanations of the sheets, how to use the workbook, and definitions for anything you might see in the book and the workbook that you might not recognize. Keep in mind this is meant for Excel. You can use it in Google Sheets, but functionality will be better in Excel. But start with the Start Here sheet, and once you're ready, jump into the dashboard. Now here in the dashboard, we're going to put in most of our inputs, and we're going to see our most important results summary. A reminder that in this workbook, everything that's green are things that you're going to edit, generally, and gray cells, white cells, and gold cells are your outputs. So here you see, we enter our first numbers, the target net worth, or our fire number that we received from the previous tool, tool number 1. You can just enter any number there. Let's say 1,500,000. And as you enter those numbers, you'll see that throughout the entire workbook, all the calculations update immediately. So all you have to do is put in these five points and you'll get everything you need. Next, the withdrawal rate that we decided in our previous workbook. Be sure to enter that. 3.3% to 3.5% is what's recommended throughout the industry, conservatively to moderately. 4% is more aggressive with the fire crowd. So based on your risk profile and discussions with your financial advisor, decide that. So for this, we'll go with 3.5%. Your expected return, you're going to enter here. The expected return is the expected return of your portfolio. Now, the market, S&P 500, the U.S. stock market, hovers between 8.5% and 10% historically. For your portfolio, if you have a mix of stocks and bonds, you're going to enter the expected return specifically for your portfolio in the long term. So I'm going to enter 9% to stay around the stock market. Now, inflation. This is going to be accounted for in the inflation adjusted tabs and the inflation adjusted real world returns tabs, number 2 and number 3 past the dashboard. Historically, inflation is 2 to 3% in the US. It depends on where you're at. So give that a bit of research. And if you're moving abroad, keep that in mind. If you're in a high inflation country like Argentina or some emerging markets, that might be a riskier thing and you want to account for that. Last, this is going to power our historical, our real world returns. Choose your index. Now, in this, we have the data, underlying data that we're going to use to test whether our assets will withstand our withdrawal rate over time. You have a variety of ETFs that are common among the fire crowd, as well as real world returns in the stock market from 1976 to 2025, and from 1928, just after the Great Depression, to 1977. So by choosing one of these, you will get your imbalance. You'll be able to look at how your assets do over time every single year, see if they ever dip below a specific amount. There we go. And the real world, in our real world returns right here. And after that, you've essentially entered most of the data. You have the option to, within each tab, enter one-time expenses each year. For instance, if you want to enter $25,000 to buy a used car, a nice Toyota, then you can put that in and it'll calculate it for each year. But the tool will work just fine by entering the data in these 5 elements. And with that, you can see how your assets and your fire plan stand against the next 50 years. Here we see at a 3.5% withdrawal rate, straight line fixed withdrawal, no issues, passes, last for 50 years at least. Inflation adjusted at 3%, passes, last for 50 years at least. Inflation adjusted real world stock returns from 1976 to 2025, which is what we selected here, Pass, no issues. It lasts for 50 years. Your end balance, you can see here based on those assumptions, and you got a pretty little chart here that tells you exactly what you're going to have along the way. Now, if we crank it up to something insane, like say a 7% withdrawal rate, we start to see that our inflation adjusted spend at 7% of our net worth a year fails in year 28. Doesn't make it to 50 years. In balance, you're not going to hit that. Um, you're taking that from the bank. Okay, so let's put this back to something reasonable. 4%. Now we're back in the good. And let's go through the tabs. Now, starting with the withdrawals, looking at our sheets that indicate our withdrawals, if you look down, you see straight line withdrawal, inflation adjusted withdrawal, inflation adjusted with real world returns, and then we have historical returns data in our last tab. Now, what this means is in our initial straight line withdrawal, this is when we withdraw our specific amount. So in this case, 4% of 1.5 million is 60,000. We withdraw that for 50 years and do not increase it at all. The odds of this happening are very low unless over time your expenses are going down. Say with your withdrawal, you're paying for a house, and within 20 years or 15 years, your house is paid off and that expense disappears, so you won't need as much money. But for most people, you are going to need to increase that withdrawal rate over time. But this gives you an option for seeing what life would look like if you were able to stick with a specific withdrawal amount every single year for the rest of retirement. Now, here you see your pass fail, you see your end balance, you see what your withdrawal rate will be in 10 years, and yeah, you can go through the 50 years and check that out. Next tab, inflation adjusted. This accounts for our increase in inflation. So what this is going to do is we start with our withdrawal rate, in this case the $60,000, but increases by 3%, which is our chosen inflation rate per year, to ensure that we maintain buying power as inflation goes up. So you'll see that this withdrawal year, each year, goes up by year. So in this case, we are accounting for maintaining the same purchasing power as our first year through the 50 years. And you can see in the results, again, pass fail, whether this model breaks and you actually go negative or not, and then what year. First year withdrawal, 10-year withdrawal, and you can scroll all the way through the 50 years and assess what life's going to look like. So next we have the most valuable, in my opinion, tool, the inflation adjusted real world returns. Now, we start with the same information, your net worth, your withdrawal rate in the first year, the inflation rate, and your chosen, not chosen expected return. We use the market data from the tool that you assume. So here we chose the US stock market. And if you look at this line, we see the returns for the US stock market every single year for the period which we chose. This is 1976 to 2025. And that is applied to our withdrawal situation. So you can see what your assets would look like over that period. Now, let's go ahead and break this. We're going to break this by, let's see. We're going to break this by switching to 1928 to 1977, which were some pretty rough years on return, and you can see that breaks. Even at 4%, that breaks. We can go back into our inflation-adjusted real-world returns and see exactly when we get hit with that. This is valuable because if you look in the first 4 years, if you had retired in 1928, you're hitting some pretty low numbers in the stock market, and it's killing your assets off pretty quickly. But let's look for the first year. Oh, okay. So here we see fail in year 20. Also, we see that the end balance, which is not going to hit. If we were to continue withdrawing at that rate, that's how much we'd have to take out from the bank. There we go. We see the first year that it breaks. We see the first year that you go negative. So in this scenario, your assets would only last in fire for 19 years. And then after that, you've got problems. So apply whatever your withdrawal rate is in your assets and your plan. apply all of the options, because you have the World ETF, you have the US Market ETF, you have the World ex-US ETF, Market ETF in there. Apply all of those in the dashboard and see what breaks and what doesn't, along with your withdrawal rate. That way, you're choosing this knowing with an idea of how likely it is to survive. Now, in one sheet, this is just for informational purposes. There's nothing you can edit in here. These are the returns since inception for the major ETFs that most fire types use. It's through Vanguard. I'm not promoting Vanguard or anything, just wanted to keep it apples to apples. Whether you're using iShares or any other ETF, all good. But for here, we're just using the Vanguard ones. We have VTI, which is the U.S. stock market, entire U.S. stock market. We have VOO, which mirrors the S&P 500. VT, which is World. VXUS, which is the world stock market with the U.S. stock market removed. We have the U.S. stock market from 1976 to 2025, a 50-year period to test against, and the U.S. stock market 1928 to 1977, a period to test again. And you can see all of those returns for the 50 years. Now, some of these don't have 50 years worth of data, in which case we cycle, which is actually good because you can see they have some up years and they have some down years through each. There we go. And a little bit of ancillary data, just so you can get a feeling for what returns have been. We have this S&P 500, U.S. small cap, 3-month T-bill, U.S. T-bonds, real estate, gold. Those rates over as long as they have the data. So since 1928 until present. So you can look and see realistically, is that 9% or 10% realistic? If you have bonds, how bad is it likely to get? And be able to figure out what's the best path for you. And thank you very much, and I'll see you in the next video.